I want to move on to the other big news, of course, in the US today, and that's Hunter Biden's federal gun trial. It all kicked off today with jury selection. What can we expect from this?
Well, look, I think there's two things that are important for every audience that's paying attention to this at all to understand. Number one, a lot of folks here in the U.S. keep saying, well, it's amazing how folks on the right are looking at this versus how they looked at Trump. Well, let's make sure everyone understands this. Hunter Biden was given a sweetheart deal. And he rejected it. They were trying to get him out of this deal. And that's important to understand because people are saying, oh, see, it's not a two-tiered system of justice. The Biden Justice Department is equally going after Hunter. But they're only going after him because he rejected a sweetheart deal. This isn't like this was their first offer. The second thing that's important to understand, James, is every Democrat around here, when there's a shooting, talks about how we need to have stricter gun control. We need to know who's buying guns. Here's Hunter Biden who lied on a federal firearms application because he was a known addict. How do I know that? How do you know that? How does anyone know? Because he wrote it in his own book. It should be a slam dunk case. He wrote about it in a book that he published talking about his struggles with addiction. That's unfortunately a very tough situation. I feel bad for him. But at the end of the day, you cannot have a firearm in the United States if you are addicted to drugs. And he admitted on the form that he wasn't. That's a lie. That's misleading the public. And it's something that Democrats rally against all the time. People falsifying applications to get firearms. And we need to be stricter and more controlling. It's amazing the silence here in the United States from the left, and I mean not just Democrats, but from the media, who love to talk about people who shouldn't have firearms in the United States. And in this particular case, not only was that firearm illegally obtained because he lied on a form, but then it was discarded in a trash can near a school. I cannot believe what a pass this is getting here in the U.S. from our left-wing media, but it shouldn't be surprised.
So, Sean, the way you're speaking, it sounds to me like you don't really expect that Hunter Biden's travails will impact on Joe Biden at all?
Oh, my God. I mean, look, number one, it's the opposite of Trump. He's being tried in Delaware, a hugely Democratic state that supports the Biden family's been in charge there for 50 years. I think he's got a really good chance of getting off, despite the fact that, like I said, it's literally in his book that he admits an addiction problem, which easily shows that he lied on the federal firearms application. But I think there's a good chance he gets off on this, number one. And number two is you can see that this is all about trying to make him a victim here in the United States. He was addicted. He had a problem, and we should feel bad for him. Joe Biden loves his son. This is all about creating a very, very favorable environment to Hunter and the trials and tribulations he's going through. In President Trump's case, right, it was follow the dots. Michael Cohen did this, and there was some, but they were always trying to figure out, we have nothing to prove it goes back to Donald Trump. Here in Hunter Biden's case, there's no question about it. The evidence is there. Hunter himself admits to it. And yet I do think he's got a good chance of getting off because it's in Delaware.
Amazing. All right, quickly talk to me about the fallout from Trump's criminal conviction. I've got a couple of rapid-fire questions for you on this. Firstly, how's it affecting his campaign?
Well, look, he's raised over $70 million in the last, 72 hours, 96 hours. That's an unheard of, unprecedented number in politics. He raised over $140 million in the month of May. Any question about his ability to compete? But the big thing isn't just the dollars he raised, it's who's giving it. A lot of these people, a third of them, have never contributed before. So this is new people getting fired up and involved in this. I think the Democrats went way too far. And one thing that you've got to keep in mind when looking at this race is we're talking about a handful of states, but even more so, it's a very, very minute number of people who are, quote, undecided in any of those states. What this has done more than anything else, James, is harden the support among Trump's base. These people might have been supporting him in the past. Now they want a yard sign. They want to knock on doors. They want to make phone calls. They want to make another contribution. This has strengthened the resolve of so many of Trump's supporters, and frankly, a lot of people who might not have been with him, but see the weaponization and the lawfare that's been used against him.
Sean, one more question before we finish. Sentencing is set to happen, I think, 4 days before the Republican National Convention. And I'm thinking, surely they wouldn't put Trump in jail. I mean, they wouldn't possibly do that, but there's an appetite for it. Have a listen to former FBI Director James Comey.
They would just put him in a double wide somewhere out near the fence, out in the grass. And he would eat there, he'd shower there, he'd exercise there, he'd be away, as Danya Perry said, from general population. But it's obviously doable.
Sean, they wouldn't put him in jail, would they?
You know what, James? I didn't think that they would convict him. So I'm not holding my breath on anything anymore. I think Judge Marchand wants to be a hero. He obviously, through his contributions and through his daughter's activities, have made it very clear whose side he's on. In some ways, this is their opportunity to go down in history as someone who not only convicted, but then jailed the former president who the left hates. I would have answered this question, no way, absolutely no way, a few weeks ago. And then as I've seen how this trial has progressed, and the verdict that ultimately was reached, I don't put anything past the left right now. But I'll tell you this, you're absolutely right. The sentencing is scheduled for July 11th. The convention kicks off on the 15th. If they do this, they will unequivocally guarantee the re-election of Donald Trump on November 5th of this year. So in some ways, I think, the people are almost itching for it. I would hate to see President Trump actually have to go to jail, but in a weird way, it would almost certainly guarantee his return to the White House.
Amazing times in the United States. Sean Spicer, thank you for your time.
You bet.